dumping, addressing the prostitution and the day walkers and things of that nature. So I would say almost a month in, we are pleased with the progress. I think the biggest thing for us is continuing to get the pulse of the residents about how they feel about it, their likes, dislikes, etc., adjusting as we need to. And again, this is a pilot over a season. Let's see where we are 6 weeks in to give more update about progress. And I think we'll be able to provide more tangible results. Stay tuned for the website as well as our social media channels on small initiatives for this pilot program and updates to what we're doing to keep it clean, to produce pride, as well as keep people safe.
There have been 18 homicides this month in the city of Birmingham. BPD tells us that they've made 4 separate arrests so far in these different incidents. Something that you spoke about a couple of weeks ago alongside BPD was coming at these people with full force of the law. Where are you at this moment with bringing justice to those other people?
Absolutely. I think as a city and a community, we continue to mourn those who've lost their life, especially those innocent victims, from women to a 5-year-old child. All of these homicides that you mentioned are open and active investigations. Many of them have leads, but the process of an investigation related to a homicide doesn't always pan out. You can just snap your fingers. So I think we're encouraged by the investigations. The investigations will continue until we find and apprehend a suspect in those individual cases. I think overall, related to the full force, we're encouraged by our partnerships with the FBI, with ATF, with DEA, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with our local partners, which includes our local DA's office as well as the Sheriff's Office. I think this coordinated approach between local law enforcement as well as some national resources allows us to focus on those who are pretty much hell-bent on hurting people in our community, and we're going to give them the attention they need to sit them down and arrest them.
Mayor Woodfin, I know a few weeks ago you mentioned that partnership. You all held that press conference with the FBI, even showing the weapons that are being used in a lot of these homicides. You're about to be a first-time dad, so what kind of city do you want your daughter to grow up in?
I want my daughter to grow up in the city that I want my 2 bonus sons, as well as every other child in the city to grow up in. The same communities I want the residents of Eastlake to grow up in. You know, part of that project in Eastlake, I've spoken to enough parents and grandparents who said, I don't let my child play outside. I want them to feel safe. So in thinking about that program, you know, the results I want for the Eastlake Initiative is for parents and grandparents to feel safe enough for their children to play outside again. That's the same thing I want for my daughter. That's the same thing I want for every child who lives in the city, for their parents, their grandparents, for their child to feel safe enough to play outside. And I know we can get there. I think if we're depending on the police alone or the mayor's office alone, we'll never get there. We have some, what I would call, cultural challenges in our community, where you have to have community buy-in to change community. And I'm encouraged that we can get there. I think I'll use my and our platform to keep uplifting that point, to keep promoting, pushing that point, that the more community buy-in we have of, I'm not asking for everybody to do everything. I'm asking for you to do your small part on your block, your street, in your neighborhood. And if each of us do that, then collectively we can make that block, that street, that neighborhood, that community, our city better for all of our children.
And did you say when exactly you think an initiative like the one at Eastlake will go out to other neighborhoods? Do you think that will happen?
I haven't said that. Do I want it to happen? I'm not sure. Again, this is a pilot program. I think we need a lot of other people at the table to address how do we prevent people from easily driving into the community, shooting and easily driving out. There are some tools, we need more tools. There were some tools, those tools don't exist no more. So we gotta keep having this conversation in partnership of how to make communities safe.
So who do we call on? If you can cry out to the community now with all these cameras, who are you calling on to join this table?
Everyone, I think everyday residents of Birmingham, homeowner, non-homeowner, renter, you stay in an apartment, you stay in a duplex, triplex, you stay in a single family home. You are a child, you're an adult, you're a grandparent, you don't have any children. You are black, you're white, you're young, you're old. If you live in Birmingham, Alabama, what I said at the council meeting this morning, that was very, very intentional. Talked about pride where I reside, and that conversation was related to people gotta help keep Birmingham clean. It's not meant for your public works department and your city government to just pick up after you, just keep throwing stuff on the ground. I think the same thing helps when it comes to crime. We can't be comfortable. We shouldn't be comfortable giving safe haven for people, who hurt children, who hurt women, who hurt seniors and elders in our community. Let us know, and if you're afraid, let us know so we can give you the witness protection you need. But we need people in this community who have credible information to get shooters off the street who hurt our most vulnerable community members to come forward. And the more people who participate, whether it's our Connect Birmingham program with cameras from the exterior of their home, whether it's calling Crime Stoppers, whether it's going on the website giving information, whether it's creating their own neighborhood block watch program, it does not matter what people do as long as everybody's active and saying, this is my block, this is my street, and I'm going to protect it. And if I see any form of crime, I will report it. Birmingham, Alabama will be a safer place.
Mr. Mayor,
You should have been waiting. Go for it.
as Mr. Mayor, as homicides continue to climb, right now we're at 84 versus year-to-date last year 70. What steps is your administration taking to try to fill the nearly 300 vacancies among officers?
Well, not sure where you got your information from, because I've never said there are 300 vacancies. That's one. Two, I think we've been in a position to work with BPD related to our hiring process. Listen, Birmingham, Alabama is not unique as it relates to unfilled positions in police departments. In 2020, we saw a cascade of changing related to a lot of public service positions. The top three were police, nurses, and teachers. If you talk to any superintendent in any school-size system that's large, they will tell you they're short teachers today when school is about to start next week. You talk to any CEO of a hospital, they'll tell you they're short nurses. And if you talk to any mayor of a large-size city, they'll tell you that they're short police officers, because we all faced the exact same thing in 2020, 4 years ago. In my left hand, you had the coronavirus, and people who still had to work, teachers, nurses, and police officers, couldn't work from home like everyone else. And those three public service positions, including police officers, retired at a rate that was never seen before in any of these cities, including Birmingham, Alabama. And at the exact same time, different from nursing, different from teachers, 2 months later after the coronavirus hit in March, in May of 2020, George Floyd was killed. And as I remind people, as I've stated and I'll continue to state, the murder of George Floyd was not isolated or contained to the city limits of Minneapolis, Minnesota. When George Floyd was killed, that sent an unfortunate ripple out to the next generation of people. We want to be police officers related to trusting the police nationwide. That meant less people had interest in being, less people applied to want to be police officers. That has been a 4-year trend, again, for any major city, big city, larger city, or large police department in the United States. So that issue is not contained to Birmingham. On the solution end, we're encouraged by the trend. 4 years later, we see that the current class is the biggest class we've had literally since April of 2020. We're encouraged by the next incoming class we have in November. And we're encouraged by our intentional efforts of outreach in every communication channel to let the next generation know we need you to be police officers, to serve your community. The trust the mistrust you have, the best way to change it is for you to be active. We're reaching out locally, we're reaching out statewide, we're reaching out nationwide to attract people to our police department. We've since increased our pay over the last 3 years, more than 15%. We've implemented a take-home car policy. We're doing our retirement packages as well as all these other benefits we're creating. But it's bigger than money, right? It's bigger than a take-home car. It's bigger than a pension. The question that we present, and it's not a philosophical question, it's a hard, tangible question, is for this next generation, what do we have to do to make them, inspire them, motivate them to want to be police officers? It's not an easy question to answer, but it's a question we ask ourselves every day to attract the next generation of officers. This is a conversation I'm having with other mayors who face the same challenge across our nation.
FOP leaders recently cited your conversations with them as perhaps one of the incentives or encouragers for why they delayed a vote of no confidence. Do you have a reaction?
No. Next question.
You had a
That's easy.
conversation,
Just playing. But no, I don't have a reaction.
What are your thoughts on that? And obviously, they delayed the vote of no confidence. Would you speak a little bit to the importance of those ongoing conversations with police union leaders?
Yeah, I think, listen, by design, my position is to listen more than I talk. By design, my position is also to serve my employees. I think it doesn't matter if it's a union or any other organization. One of the first thoughts I have every morning is how to better take care of city employees. Every day. Don't miss a day, don't miss a beat. What can I do to better enhance the quality for our employees? Their service, their commitment to the city of Birmingham, something that I don't take lightly. With that in mind, I'm employee driven as an employer to take care of all of our employees. Our officers have a hard time when you have unfilled positions. Unfortunately, that puts a strain on your existing officers. They, like you and I, want to go home to their families, right? They want time off. But we find ourselves with pushing them. So I'm grateful for what our police are doing. With that in mind, I'm sensitive to their needs, sensitive to their requests, sensitive to their concerns, and every day I can address them, I do that.
you had a conversation with Big Gabo about some of those cultural problems that we see in the city. So how do you think conversations like that will penetrate to the youth? And will you continue to have conversations like that or meet the youth where they are?
I think I can answer the second two easier than you reminded me of the first question. Yes, I'll continue to have those conversations with our youth. I think conversations like that can be impactful. As I stated earlier about the cultural challenges the city of Birmingham and other urban cores in America face, I am reminded of the following, and we need to be honest about this. And I challenge the media to be honest about this as well. America, not Birmingham, America has a gun culture problem. We need to say it out loud. America has a gun culture problem. And, you know, when America gets a cold, Black Americans get the flu. And I think in our urban cores, you see this gun violence at a higher rate than you see in other portions of our country. And what's interesting in the Southeast, where the gun culture is at its height, we also see the opposite of laws being passed and or strengthening and giving us additional tools to address this crisis. I'm not allowed to do that at a local level because we don't have local control. So I think for me, the next conversation is, let's talk about the culture aspect of this issue. It's embedded in the music, it's embedded in the video games, it's embedded in what we see on TV, it's embedded in everyday conversations, it's embedded in the social media apps, it's literally in our face all the time. So, you know, charging uphill, trying to offset what's happening in the community, one of the biggest influences is, trust me, as parents, right? When we talk about this village concept. It can't be just a mayor of a city, the only person talking about what are we doing to prevent gun violence. So shout out to all the nonprofits and organizations that are in the space that engage youth in our community as it relates to nonviolence, that are teaching them conflict resolution and other things to do. But we need everybody at the table. We need the whole village at the table participating in this conversation. I don't care if you're a rapper, influencer, you got a nonprofit or a for-profit. Everybody has to participate in this conversation of how do we better teach our youth, protect our youth, and make sure our youth know they have options. You don't have to be a drug dealer. We got a gazillion programs right here that you finish this program, you can get paid $100,000 a year. So it's not enough just to say, don't do drugs, don't sell drugs. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity here. Come get this certificate, come get trained here, and make more money than being in the street to provide for and protect your family.
Do you think conversations like that will penetrate the youth when you have with Yabo?
I do. I think our youth are on the same platforms and channels that we're on. I think you have to talk directly to them, not at them. And I think you have to pull them in a conversation about their needs, their wants, their issues, what they're seeing, and what we as adults can do to better provide for them.
And what other ways do you plan to do that? Let's just say for the rest of 2024.
Yeah, I think there are various ways. I think the biggest way is on the ground, right? Stuff you don't see on camera. Actually being in community, sitting on somebody's porch, being at a rec center, talking to youth as a group. School starts next week, being in schools, talking to our youth. Being at these football camps and these Little League games on Saturdays. It's just being in our youth face in the spaces they are, meeting them where they are. That's the biggest way. And the most important way.
Right. Going back to the question she was asking just a few minutes ago, how many officers are y'all short?
Now, you know we don't discuss personnel.
I gotta try.
I believe you.
I know.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Follow up to the big Yabo question, what reaction did you get after you posted that video? Did you hear from younger people?
I did. So yeah, I heard from young people, I heard from older people. I think the biggest thing we heard was, thank you for having this conversation. I didn't know Yabo had lost so many people, right? I was explaining to him all the people I lost. I was explaining to him how I get tired of attending funerals, how we're in this cycle of violence, and the only way to pull up is for everybody to do their part. And his response was so powerful. But I want to be clear, Yabo has more influence than I ever can on our youngest generation in this city. So what I want to do is continue to have conversations with those influencers, with those entertainers, with those activists and other young people who have platforms, who young people follow to say, I need you to use your platform to encourage young people, tell young people that there are other ways, there are other options. You don't have to go down this path. Doesn't matter if it's poverty-stricken, your parents weren't in there, somebody's in jail. I think enough of us have had those experiences to say there's still other options. And we want our young people to choose other options that keep them alive, that keeps them out of jail, that keeps them from being hurt, that keeps them from losing their life or losing a loved one, that puts them on the path of a good job, good pay to take care of themselves.
Mayor, I want to give you a time check. It's 11:37.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Just one more from me. Going back to the community buy-in, I mean, you know, coming off one of the deadliest months in Birmingham in the past 6 years, has community buy-in changed? Has it increased? Are more people reaching out, speaking out? That's
It's good we're talking points. Yes, that's the short answer, yes. We've actually, believe it or not, whether it's Crime Stoppers, whether it's the mayor's office, whether it's direct calls to BPD, I can look you square in your eyes, I can look all of you in your eyes and tell you I'm highly encouraged and pleased with the response we're getting from community members who are stepping up to provide and give credible information related to criminal activity and or crime that's happening in our city that is leading to strengthening our investigations that BPD is conducting, as well as the ability to lead to an arrest. So I'm extremely encouraged by the community. I think this is a good time to say thank you to our community for stepping up, for having the courage to speak out related to the criminal element and or crime that's occurred, particularly as it relates to a homicidal killing in the city. We cannot do this without community. You know, the criminal investigation of any crime as it relates to getting to the point of conviction is on a continuum, and you need everybody involved. You need witnesses, you need investigators, you need a grand jury, you need the DA's office, you need a judge, you need 12 men and women in the box. You need all of that together to put people away who are hell-bent on hurting people in our community. That's a process and it takes time. And so one of the initial steps of that entire continuum and process is community buy-in at the early stage and residents coming off of and getting credible information to put us in the best position to make an arrest. You get the last question.
Would you welcome state and federal collaboration to perhaps better police staffing levels with recruitment efforts or retention? I know some conversations are beginning at the state level. Former Representative Alan Treadway, or former BPD Assistant Chief Alan Treadway spoken about this a little bit. What are your thoughts on potential collaborations at that level?
Well, collaboration is different from takeover. Collaboration is different from takeover. I encourage collaboration all the time. You know, I'm reminded that at the height of us losing police officers, and at the height of our homicides, Treadway was second in charge of the Birmingham Police Department. So let me be very, very clear when I say this. I don't have home rule. And so my relationship with the Jefferson County delegation is extremely important to me. And the best relationship, partnership you can have is one of collaboration, where instead of me running to the media or delegation members running to the media, we actually sit down and talk to each other and collaborate. I'm encouraged to have those conversations, look forward to those conversations. Those conversations haven't been had. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor.
Find a way.